Meeple Nation Podcast, episode 450, Meeple Nation, November 2022 news.
Welcome, citizens of Meeple Nation. For the next 30 minutes, sit back and enjoy.
Meeple Nation Podcast is sponsored by GameToppersLLC.com. If you ever find yourself at any board game convention and there's a Game Topper booth there, stop by and get a chance to meet Kevin Berkey. He is an amazing guy, the nicest guy you'll ever meet, and he just loves to interact with people, and he makes an amazing product. We had the opportunity to help Kevin at his booth at BGG Con just this last little bit. We got a chance to have dinner with Kevin, which was amazing. We went to Heart 8, which is not our sponsorship.
But it should be.
It
was so good.
Heart 8 was amazing. We just had the opportunity to spend almost 2 hours at Heart 8 eating and conversing with Kevin, talking about all sorts of cool stuff that he said we couldn't talk about, new ideas that are coming out, new products that are going to be pretty stinking cool.
The thing about Berkey is he just continues to innovate. And we can't talk about some of those things, but it was amazing to hear him talk about how much he cares about the hobby and gamers and the things he wants to do to improve gamers' experiences. This guy is committed, and it is awesome.
He was all about the input from us, anything and everything we had to say.
And you can tell that a lot of his ideas are from talking to gamers. What would make their gaming more pleasant, more enjoyable? He's taken that to heart and has come up with a lot of good ideas. Honestly, it's how he's developed his product as well as he has, is by listening to the voice of his customers and of gamers.
One thing I was surprised as I was at the booth and talking to people, showing them the selection of mats that Berkey had there, I was really surprised how many people wanted plain mats. We talk about all these beautiful mats we have, and we like this pirate map, the lava map, the Cthulhu map. A lot of people are like, I just want a plain mat. And there are some. A wood grain, so it looks like a tabletop, plain red one or blue one. We talk about trying to complement a game with a mat like you do your dinner with a fine wine. Some people just prefer a generic color, and those are available.
Now, when you say plain, though, you just mean as far as the artwork goes. Like, I have seen mats that are much more plain if you go by another definition. These are high quality.
I heard your air quotes there.
Thank you.
No, you're absolutely right. I own a couple of mats that I've picked up that a basic color, but these mats trimmed edge at 3 millimeters, neoprene, so that you put them on a table, they don't slide. It's a very high quality product that apparently we can't talk enough of.
Well, and they're great for wargamers. Wargamers love those plain colors or the terrains. He's got the green terrain map that I think is fantastic. And you can get that with or without the hex grid that comes on it. And then while we were at BGG Con, on one of the tables, they had a game set up. I'd never seen that before, but they actually had plastic risers that were underneath the mat. So it actually had that nice contoured 3D shape to it. I thought that was fantastic.
So the rolling hills.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It was really, really cool.
Take some time. Go to GameToppersLLC.com. Check out their product. If you hurry, Kickstarter 3.5 is probably got days left before those prices go away. Some of those packages are an amazing deal to get a table, 2 mats, cup holders, dice tower attaches right to the table. Some amazing products. GameToppersLLC.com.
Welcome to Meeple Nation. We are your happy hosts.
Peppy hosts.
I am Andy Holiday.
I'm Douglas Stewart.
I'm Nathan Howard.
And I'm Dave Holiday.
We're supposed to be happy, Dave.
I don't know why you always think I sound so in the dumps.
Have you heard yourself?
Shut up, I'm just going to go home.
We'll make Dave happy and jump over to our website. Check out all of our episodes that are linked there. We have blogs that we release on a weekly basis. Each of us write blogs, plus we have some guest bloggers that also write for us. And there are a lot of insights and interesting takes on the gaming world and how it has affected our lives and shaped us into the people that we are. We also have bios of each of us if you're interested in learning more about each of us. And there's also a link to our Patreon page. If you like what we do, please jump over to Patreon and send us some support. We appreciate those who are currently and continue to support us. We want to continue to bring you the best content possible and to improve what we do. Also, if you have any questions or comments or want to reach out to us, please send us an email at meeplenation@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you.
This week we are talking about game highlights from the last month. First and foremost on everyone's list is going to be BGG Con.
Yeah, we should probably
Because
just stop
it
and
was
talk about
fantastic.
that now.
Absolutely. Typically, we kind of go through this and we each kind of take a turn going through highlights, but I think that this is going to get all pretty intermingled and meshed together. I'll start us off here, though. BGG Con was fantastic. This was my first year getting to go to the convention, and I absolutely loved it.
We went to some great places to eat. We played some great games. If you had 3 seconds, what would you say was your greatest highlight of BGG?
Absolutely.
Your 3 seconds are over.
Yeah.
Andy.
It was 100% the time that we got to spend with Berkey, talking to him, being able to sit down and really kind of pick his brain and go over his thoughts, going out to eat with him. That was the highlight for sure. Working the Game Toppers booth, getting to know people, that whole experience was really, really great. And that's saying something because the gaming was also fantastic.
What about you, Nathan? We all can't have the same game highlight. So something besides hanging out with Berkey and the booth, what was your favorite highlight?
The thing I'll probably remember the most, we get in the Uber to go to Bushi Bushi Dim Sum House. We wanted to go there before the rush so we could get back to avoid rush hour. And we get in the car. We're on the freeway. It was a little bit of a drive. It was 15 minutes away. So Dallas traffic, that was going to take us 20, 25 minutes to get there. I start looking at my phone. I'm like, hey guys, this place doesn't open for an hour and a half. And the panic in the Uber driver as he turned around, I mean, he kind of looked at me with these big, wide, scary eyes like, what do I do with these guys? They're already in my car.
I thought he was going to have a heart attack.
Yeah.
He was like, do you still want to go?
Well, we're on the freeway. Yeah, just let us out here. We'll walk back. So we got to Denton a little bit early and wandered around, tried some cookies, and we tried taking a tour of the block. 90 minutes later, we were able to sit down and eat. And so we went out to eat to 2 restaurants. Other food we had brought in. But I have a hard time deciding which experience I don't have a hard time. I really enjoy Hard 8, but I really enjoy Bushi Bushi. The variety of dim sum that we had, the food was top notch. Really wish we hadn't done those 2 experiences, one right after the other, because after that, the food was all downhill from there.
I would agree with that.
Especially that last day.
It's also got to be great for Logan to be able to go and reacquaint himself with Poodoo.
Yeah.
And he did, yes.
It was a joyful reunion.
Nice.
So Poodoo is the robot at Bushi Bushi that brings your food to your table. Last time we were there, we had moved the tables, and the robot was programmed to go a certain way and just kept running into Logan over and over again. And the robot has a little generated face on it, has a happy little smile face, and as it kept trying to run in and over Logan, it got worried, sweat was dripping down the sides. It was hilarious. But Poodoo was there again, brought us many scrumptious things.
I would have to say my highlight was the fact that we got to play Twilight Inscription. This has been sitting on your shelf for about a month. It just looks awesome. I've gotten to where I've warmed up to roll and writes. I didn't like the idea at first. I just thought, oh, that's kind of dumb. The more and more I play them, the more and more I like them. For there to be an epic roll and write in the Twilight Imperium universe just sounded awesome, and I was not disappointed. All of us, with the exception of Nathan Tenney, had so much fun with it, and it was just great. Tenney struggled. He didn't care for that game, and I felt bad that we made him play it again.
He was a good sport about it.
He was.
He was so lucky at that game.
He was so lucky.
I don't know if it was as bad as you think. That was one of the games that he's thinking about hosting himself at SaltCon in the spring. He's at least wanting to get back to it.
I think we did win him over. It was a fun game. He felt bad. His score wasn't as competitive. Sorry, Nathan, if you're listening. But it just wasn't as competitive. And I think he felt a little bit bad about that. But he had a great time both times he played it. What a fantastic game. This was one that I was absolutely ready to just kind of write off. I've played Twilight Imperium once. It's a cool universe. The Twilight Inscription theme seemed kind of cool. But to try to turn that game into this big, epic, sprawling roll and write experience was just something I was ready to just pass me by. And so I'm really glad, Andy, that you grabbed this, you learned it, you did a great job teaching it to us, and we had a wonderful time playing it at the convention. Really amazing game, and I would play that anytime.
It was one that I was going to pass up too. Our friend Brian Hirschbeck, you should get into this. We're ordering a bunch. Fine. It didn't take much, right?
Never does.
I was a little bit nervous. I didn't want the game to be such a drag that it was boring, but the play was so interactive that there was very little time where you're not involved in the game. It was a complex, roll and write, but well done and easy to stay involved with. The time went by and you weren't worried about this game is taking too long.
What I feel like they did well with, so you have 4 boards in front of you. As an outsider looking in, you're thinking, oh my gosh, there is so much going on. This is super complicated. But they've done such a good job where you have to pick one board that you're going to focus on for that round. None of the others really matter. You got to keep everything in the back of your mind of what you want to do because they all kind of interact in a different way. But you're focusing on one board, looking at the dice and figuring out what you're going to mark off and how you're going to use those dice. Simplified it to where it didn't feel like you were drinking through a fire hose. You really could wrap your head around it a little more easily because of that. Okay, this round I'm going to focus on this. What am I going to do next round? Okay, next round I got to go move over to here. So one of the things I like the most about it, every player has an asymmetric race that you start with. We only played what we played twice, and the 2 races I played so differently. Even though your boards are the same, that asymmetric ability had me going a completely different direction, and I had a completely different game experience, and I really liked that.
Each time we played was drastically different.
Yeah, 100%, because it wasn't just some little passing bonus. It was an asymmetric power that you could build an entire strategy around. And I love that.
I am really excited to try this game. I am glad you guys got it figured out. I really want to try it out. I love Twilight Imperium. That's hard for me to say. I don't know that I love Twilight Imperium because I don't love all the battle. I love most of Twilight Imperium. I can imagine I'm going to love this one as well.
Well, one of the comments that at least I kept getting when people would walk by is, oh, well, how does it play? Is it like Twilight Imperium? And no, it's not. It's not going to take you 8 hours to play, but they do have politics involved where you're voting on stuff. It has the feel of Twilight Imperium, and you have the same races as Twilight Imperium. There's a little bit of conflict, but it doesn't have the same feel where you're losing units that you've built up or anything like that. The conflict, I would compare it more to Seven Wonders rather than Twilight Imperium as far as basically battling your neighbors. Who has the stronger army? Okay, you won, you get this bonus, you lost, you lose 1 point. So it's not detrimental if you lose, you can ignore it completely, and it's not going to completely destroy your game. Whereas in Twilight Imperium, if you ignore battle, you're probably not going to do great. Whereas you don't have to do that in this, which I like. It opens up strategies and opens up different paths you can take to explore the game.
Yeah, I agree. They did a great job making this game feel like it was set in the Twilight Imperium universe, while at the same time being a totally unique game in and of itself.
So that was a long game highlight for me as far as my favorite part of the con.
Another highlight for me was our Shadows of Brimstone play. We set up a couple of tables. We actually, at the convention, they have a couple tables that they push together and put a tablecloth over, and we had to take a couple more tables and bring them over and set them up so we had a much bigger play surface to play on. We played 2 pretty hefty missions of Shadows of Brimstone. That was a lot of fun.
Shadows of Brimstone is always fun. It seems like we've had complaints in the past, valid complaints. The game is not perfect, it's flawed. But the gameplay is so fun. The world, the setting is very engaging. The skill tree's cool. Honestly, the missions themselves, even though there's not a lot of flavor text, you don't get a lot of story, there's a little bit, but there's just enough to give you a bit of ambiance of what you're trying to do. The game kind of does the rest with the monsters that are spawning and the artwork on the map tiles.
Another game that kind of won you over, Andy, was Viticulture. The one night we got everyone together, kind of out in the lobby area, and we busted out Viticulture. I think this was a little bit of redemption for the game after the not so wonderful experience we had playing it at SaltCon. We had kind of a rough teach, and it was a rough setting. We got interrupted. We had some other events we had to go to. I don't think any of us had a wonderful experience with that play of Viticulture, so it was really good to get this out at BGG Con, and everyone really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was definitely the opposite of a wonderful experience at SaltCon. In fact, I felt bad. It was my daughter's first time playing it, and afterwards, she's like, that seemed like a really interesting game, Dad. Do we have that game? I'm like, no, we don't own that one. Oh, that's too bad, because it seemed really interesting. Consequently, I picked it up at BGG along with the Tuscany expansion, so that's going to go under the Christmas tree, and she'll be excited, hopefully.
Backpedal just a little bit. Shadows of Brimstone. Check this game out of the library. There was a couple of games in the BGG Con library that were just super important games. Apparently Shadows of Brimstone was one of them, because it was in the library all day, every day, until we checked it out. If it's not a hot game, you get to check it out for 8 hours. It was 10 hours that we had this game. So when Logan went back to return it, he got, I don't know if I'd say much deserved tongue lashing, but he got chewed out for taking this game that everybody wanted. After that, we went into the library. Sure enough, that game was sitting there. For that extra 2 hours that we had, it was a pretty prized game, apparently. And then the other game that we had a hard time getting was one that was on my 10x1 that I wanted to play while we were there, and that was Big Trouble in Little China. And for some reason, that game was hotter than most of the hot games. That game was never in the library. You could track it on an app and see when it was checked in, and every time we check and it had been returned, checked out 3 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago, 17 minutes ago. I didn't think we were ever going to get that game played there, but we finally did on the last day.
Without me.
Without Doug.
Sad face.
I still haven't had the chance to play that one.
Haven't you, Dave?
Nope.
It's fun.
But then I also want to backtrack to Andy talking about his daughter. The day after we got back at the local high school here, performing in their last performance of Pirates of Penzance. It was a great performance, a lot of fun, a lot of energy. We're sitting there to give her a crisp high five after the performance. And here comes Sierra strolling up, packing this great big Board Game Geek game pack on her back. You got all your play stuff in there? And she's like, oh no, we were kind of slow the first act, so every time we're performing, I bring games to play. So the whole first act, they're behind the stage playing board games. Andy, you're winning.
I should say. That's awesome.
It kind of threw me off. She comes around the corner, and I'm thinking she's going to come up and give me a hug, and it's like this beeline for Nathan. I'm like, well, I'm right here. And as soon as she got to Nathan, she turned around to show off the backpack. It was so
awesome.
funny.
She did a good job at the play, too. Performance was awesome. I was really impressed with the fact that in their spare time, she's influencing all these other high schoolers to play some awesome board games.
The first week, she brought Lupin Louie, and they had quite the group around there watching them play 8-player Lupin Louie.
Way to go, Sierra.
I'm actually surprised that one didn't get so loud that they could hear it on stage.
Yeah, that's true.
I didn't really have a whole lot of highlights. I've been really busy with school and with some construction going on at my place. My main highlight, all my friends got to go to BGG Con, and I got to take them to the airport and pick them up.
On the flip side, though, we all did attend your daughter's wedding. So if you're going to waste your BGG money on some wedding, at least we supported you.
It was good that I was not able to go because discovered that I was behind. I was able to use all that time to kick it into overdrive and try and get caught up.
Well, it's probably a very good thing you didn't go then, Dave.
We did miss you, though, Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely did.
I missed being there.
Doug, you mentioned the table that we had in the booth working with Berkey that had the risers underneath. And that's actually a game that's coming to Kickstarter by Rob McBride, the space version that's already released. Overbattle. With the fantasy version, which was drawing my eye definitely more than the space Kickstart in February. I'm drawn to the fantasy theme anyway. The risers drew me over to that. It's a war game. You're battling and the way that you interact with the train. And he has those to where those risers actually have an in-game effect where you have the high ground. I think it's awesome when you can get a war game like that and have the versatility and have the mat involved. I think it's just so cool. I did end up buying 2 copies of the space version, though, the All War. The reason I bought those, with 2 copies, you can get one game going on 2 separate Minecrafts with a wormhole connecting both tables. It sounds epic. Came home and told my youngest boy, Caden, about it, and he has been bugging me ever since. When are we going to play that, Dad? When are we going to play it? I'm like, I got to read the rules. One of the first games I introduced him to was the Star Wars Miniatures board game, which is a war game, and he loved it. So when I told him, yeah, it's going to be similar to that, he has been bugging me nonstop of, we need to play this game, Dad. And when I told him it was going to be played on both of the Minecrafts at the same time, his eyes just got huge. He's like, oh, that sounds awesome. And it really does. So I'm excited to learn the rules. I'm excited to play it. And Rob is such a good guy. I got to visit with him and to know him a little bit as I was working in the booth. He has a lot of passion for the games he's designed.
Overbattle, Rise of Kings, should be hitting Kickstarter first quarter 2023, I believe. Follows a similar system as the All War, but this is in a fantasy realm. And I know that there's people that often prefer one over the other. Great game system. in 2 different flavors.
Yeah, that fantasy version was really catching my eye too. It was fun to hear him talk about how that terrain kind of interacts with the mechanisms of the game. You station your units behind the mountain, they get a defensive bonus. You got the high ground charging bonus. Clearly a very well thought out, well put together system. And that's one I'll definitely be looking at when it hits Kickstarter.
Yeah, the high ground. It's not just for Obi-Wan.
Not only that is he designed his game specifically for the game toppers, and the mats are specific to his game. The fact that you can get those mats, they fit on your game topper. If you don't have a game topper, they come with like a cloth mat that you can lay out on any game surface. Works great. And he did a lot of research on different fabrics and tried to make sure he got the right one that was going to work for the game. Give the players the best experience possible.
Speaking of Kickstarter games, we also got the chance to play Max Holiday, his copy of Neo Grimorium. And it was kind of funny on the airplane. Andy and I were talking, expressed to Andy my dread of playing prototype game. I don't enjoy prototype games. You guys had all played it the night before, and Max pinned me down, got me to play this game, and I actually really enjoyed it. After the game was over, I was like, I gotta be honest, Max. I was dreading this experience. And the only reason I'm telling you this is because I actually really enjoyed the game. For me to change my opinion of that so drastically, it talks a lot to the quality that his prototype was in. It's in a near finished state, planning to put that into Kickstarter in February of 2023. I would keep that on your radar for sure. It's a card crafting system. You're trying to get spells into cards, slide up to 6 different spells into one card. The rules weren't complete. We got playing and he's like, okay, we got to stop because this is broken. And I didn't mind that. From my change, a very hard, I do not like playing prototype games. No, I really enjoyed this. I'm looking forward to playing it again.
I've played this one a couple of times, and I love it. I think this one's phenomenal. He has several games in different stages that I've actually really, really enjoyed twice, but this one in particular is awesome.
Max is a very talented game designer, and he's done some really fun games. This one feels like a real evolution for him. This is a very good game, legitimately very fun to play. I'm kind of with you, Nathan. When somebody talks about a prototype game, typically I'm kind of like, I'm out. But sitting down and going through this one and playing it was a real pleasure. Definitely one that I'll be backing.
That's testament that Doug likes us because the very first game he played with us was a prototype game.
Oh, that's right. It was. I totally forgot about that. A couple other really quick BGG highlights for me. Played kind of a little filler game called The City that I'd never played before, and I really like that. If you're familiar with Jump Drive, it plays very similar. I thoroughly enjoyed that. I'm going to have to track a copy down.
That's going to be a challenge.
It is.
Well worth the search.
Eventually, that one will be sitting on the shelf. I also had a chance to teach Logan, Nathan Tinney, and Max 51st State. That one continues to fire on all cylinders for me. It's actually climbing the ranks of one of my favorite games. Also had the opportunity to play Skull King. That's kind of one of my favorite little filler trick-taking games. I don't think I won anyone over during that play. I do not think that went over well at all, but I had a good time.
It's because you're so lucky.
I am so lucky, that's true.
Also, we got the chance to play Corsari. Spoiler alert, we'll be talking about that game more in the future. Corsari is a pirate-themed game. The re-implementation has stripped away that pirate theme called Let's Go. It's a rummy-style game. We got to play that in the airport, which our wait in the airport, far more enjoyable, even though Nathan ended up missing his flight because they couldn't get the jet bridge to work. Our flight was delayed, and several people on the flight that were upset missed their connection flight. At that point, not leaving the airport until 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock the next morning. Very frustrating for those people. Enjoyable for us that we got the chance to play Corsari in the airport. That was new to everybody but me, and I think everybody enjoyed that. We got the chance to play Terra Nova, a simplified version of Terra Mystica. That game turned out to be very fun. I enjoyed that. Stripped off some of the complicated rules of Terra Mystica, made it far more accessible. We also got to play Wormholes. Each player is trying to pick up and deliver passengers from different parts of the galaxy. And so you have 5 wormholes that you're trying to establish. As each player establishes wormholes, everybody else can use those wormholes to travel to the different planets in the system to drop off those passengers. A very simple game, but there was a lot of complexity in it. I thought this game was great.
Remember when we were first going over the rules, I was thinking this game is going to be super fast. It played quickly, but I wouldn't say it ended quickly. I mean, it took us about an hour maybe to play. The turns were very quick. I like when there's not a lot of downtime. Even with the high player count we had, played really smoothly and very quickly. Yeah, I would agree. Wormholes was great. I had a fun time with it.
As we leave BGG behind, I want to talk about a game that we actually played before BGG. This is a game that Andy kickstarted. As soon as we sat down, he starts explaining this game. Before we had even taken a single turn, I was way excited about this game. Thoroughly loved this game. That's Tiny Turbo Cars. You're in the bedroom and you have your remote control cars and you're trying to race it across the floor and you're trying to get over obstacles. The rug slows you down. There's a hole in the floor. There's other toys that are in the way. I was so excited to play this game. I think I did win.
You did.
But that didn't factor into my enjoyment of the game whatsoever. I was all in before we began turn one, and I was not disappointed at all.
I've never seen you this excited to play a game before we even really got through the teach. It was actually kind of hilarious. You were almost giddy to play the game.
Yeah, I would say I was borderline giddy for sure. So excited to play that again. Look for that, Tiny Turbo Cars.
What a great game. I had the opportunity to play that with Andy and a few others that thoroughly enjoyed that as well. Growing up, I used to play a little video game called Revolt. I don't know if you guys ever played that. It was a video game, but it was the remote control racing. So it was a racing game, but you were playing as remote controlled RC cars. This just had so many of those same vibes that came through. It was almost kind of nostalgic for me in a weird way, but just the mechanisms and overall aesthetic and gameplay of that was fantastic.
So a long, long time ago,
In a galaxy far, far away?
in this galaxy, in this city, actually, once used to play online games. One of those games was To Court the King. And I remember telling David and Richie, because they're the two that I played with, I think I would like this game if I could play a physical copy of it, which is pretty much any online game for me. But I especially felt that way with this one. Luckily, you got a copy from Corey, and we were able to sit down and play it this month. I got my butt kicked, but I was so right. It is so much fun. I really liked the game, and it was so much better with a physical copy. Figured it would be that way. The die manipulation, the way all the cards work, trying to roll your dice to manipulate it to get this certain card that you're looking for, and sometimes you do, sometimes you don't, and you have to settle for something else. Great game. I had a ball with it. I know my daughter Amara played with us, and she seemed to have fun with it as well. I am glad that you ended up getting a copy of this.
Corey was actually culling this copy, and he asked me to cull it for him at SaltCon. And I told him, Corey, people are wanting $100 for this, but I don't see anybody buying it. Sadly, Corey was moving back to New Jersey. We still miss you, Corey. That hasn't changed. I'll buy it from you, but I'm not going to pay you $100 for it. I don't want the game that much. And he's like, okay, that's fine. We've played it several times here now. The game's been re-implemented into Favor of the Pharaoh, provides quite a bit more variety, but I ended up culling that game too because the classic was so much better. And I regretted that I had culled my copy of To Court the King. I was pretty excited to replace that back into my collection.
Yeah, that's always been a game I've loved. Loved it online. Actually, I was just telling Nathan today before we started recording, I saw it sitting over there, and I was like, I don't think I've ever played the physical copy. But it is a good game. It's a really good game.
So while we're off topic, again, going back before BGG Con, was able to go to Andy's house for his son and daughter's birthday party. Carson and Amara's birthday. Very nice to have them invite us over there. But it was great because Carson, Andy's oldest son, loves Nerf guns and video games. Sierra, Andy's daughter, carefully had wrapped up his birthday presents. One was in the shape of a controller. So he was really excited about this new game controller, unwrapped it, and it was an avocado. And he was disappointed with the results of having an avocado. So the next one comes out. Sierra did a great job of a Nerf gun. So it had the handle, had the barrel.
It was a Nerf rifle. It was big.
Yeah, it was big.
Yeah, like sniper rifle.
I saw that and I was like, there is no way. I saw that and I was like, there is no way that's not a Nerf gun.
It looked perfect.
She did a really good job, and it was a box of Cocoa Pebbles. And Andy's like, well, it's your favorite cereal. I don't like cereal. I want Nerf guns. And also, he got this big bucket of cheese puffs. Carson's not one to share. I felt very privileged. I asked Carson for one of his cheese puffs, And without hesitation, he gave me one. Without even asking, he gave me one later. So I thought that had to make my highlight. That was pretty cool for Carson to give me not one, but 2 cheese puffs.
I didn't get a cheese puff, so.
See? That's where I rank.
So I did have a couple additions to my game room / game collection this month as well. This is a game I've been looking at buying for a while and had a hard time finding it for a bit too, and that's XCOM. I love the video game XCOM. It's one of my favorites. So I'm really excited to try the board game implementation of it. Picked up Ultimate Railroads. I loved Russian Railroads. I'm excited to try all the different versions of Russian Railroads, the German Railroads, US Railroads, and so on. And I got a leg kit for one of my Minecrafts. Super excited about that. So now when we have to set up that third Minecraft, there's actually going to be a leg kit.
I also love XCOM. I kind of have passed that board game up because it's a real-time game, and I don't typically enjoy real-time games. But I've had several people mention lately that if you're going to play a real-time game, that's the one to play. So when you decide to bust that one out, let me know.
Oh, for sure.
Last quick highlights for me. I am continuing to make my way through Oathsworn. I'm about halfway through that campaign now. That game just continues to absolutely blow me away. I'm convinced Oathsworn, it's the real deal. This is one of those games that I think is going to be on at least the top 100 list of all time for a very, very long time. Fantastic game, and it continues to blow me away with narration, with the app, the art, the character progression, the battles and monsters that it keeps throwing at you. The general story and progression is all really, really good, and I've had a fantastic time playing through that.
I just want to stop you there while you're talking about Oathsworn. Why are you being so selfish with this one and just keeping it all to yourself?
I'll tell you what, if we can wrap up at least 2 or 3 of our campaign games, then I will share this experience with the rest of you. The thing about Oathsworn is I have to finish it. It's that good. I have to finish it. And I'm worried that if we start it, it's going to go on the pile of unfinished campaign games.
So if we wrap up 3 or 4 of them, that takes our list down out of 25, right?
At least.
So here's the deal. I'm not slowing us down on any of those, so I'm available.
So we just need more game nights.
Or just hey, I'm just going to be playing this by myself. Dave, why don't you come over and the 2 of us will run through it.
I won't be so selfish. This game is really fantastic, and I definitely want to teach it to you guys and share it because it's awesome.
Sounds like it.
I've also had a really great time playing Endless Winter. I'll talk more about this at a later date, but this game is absolutely fantastic. Kind of fits into that same category of game as Dune Imperium and Lost Ruins of Arnak. Worker placement, deck building, art by the Miko, and it's wonderful. It's one that I want to run at SaltCon. Really have enjoyed that. And then the last highlight that I wanted to share, one of the game nights that we had previous to BGG Con, it was just Dave and Andy and I that showed up for game night. And so we dusted off Descent 2nd edition, pulled out our old campaign that we'd been making our way through, played 2 or 3 scenarios. I can't remember. I think they were both side missions. Sometimes it's just so good to go back and revisit good classic dungeon crawl games like that. Such a fun night.
So my final highlight is probably one of my best highlights. So excited about. Actually, it's 2 highlights. My wife works with a fellow board gamer. It's always nice when she has conversations with this guy and starts texting me questions. Gets me in the middle of this conversation. She starts asking me questions about Board Game Arena. Apparently, this guy was totally unfamiliar with Board Game Arena. Very neat for her to be excited to explain and share her experience on Board Game Arena with this coworker of hers. So I thought that was pretty cool. I chalked that up to great experience that her and I have had. The greatest thing is, though, is since I started recording games, I've played a lot of games with a lot of people. My wife, not so much. But this last week, my wife has finally slipped into my number 1 opponent that I play games with. I've played more games with my wife than anybody else. My wife doesn't play a ton of games. Her and I play a lot of games. A lot of games that are her style. They're not deep thinking games. The longest game we're playing is Carcassonne. It's just awesome. When I look in my BG Stats app, my number 1 player is my wife, and I think that's pretty stinking cool.
That is cool.
And we've played 1,000 games together now.
That's pretty awesome.
I just have one more, but it's taking us back to BGG Con. I hope that's okay. So I've been playing a lot of online games. Mentioned that a couple of times recently in our highlights, and it's just kind of been building for me. At first, it was you and I, Nathan. Finally got Doug to start playing with us. Finally got Dennis to start playing as well. And now Richie and Dennis are both playing. And I've got 22, 25 games going on all the time right now. And it's awesome. But while you guys were at BGG Con, I was thinking about you guys a lot, living vicariously through you in a way. It was awesome that you didn't forget about me online, and I appreciated that. You weren't playing all day online with me. There was not a day where I didn't get my turns back up at least once. So that was cool, and I'm grateful for that.
Well, we didn't want you to squander your first turn.
My final game highlight is actually a highlight that's probably ongoing for the last several months, and it's the fact that Friday night game nights, we've had full tables. Sometimes I have to set up that third Mycroft upstairs. My kids will be inviting their friends. We'll get a group of teenagers playing games, and we'll have our regular crew playing games. I even have one of the boys in our church group. He loves board games. You know, his parents drop him off every Friday. He comes and plays board games for a few hours, and they come and pick him up. To get so many people that enjoy doing the same thing and just have fun and laugh and enjoy one another's company and can get involved into something that is mutually enjoyable among all of us. I think that's great. And to have it grow that much has been really, really fun to see.
Far worse things your kids could be doing on the weekend.
Absolutely.
Get Doug's kids over there, Dave's kids, Richie's kids, everybody bring their kids. It's a full-on family fun. Full-on family fun at Andy's house on Fridays.
And now not all of them play board games. We'll have the video games going, and sometimes those boys will have their shirts off and be wrestling. So it's, there's a lot going on. On the game room side, there's board games, and then who knows what goes on the other side of the basement. It's mayhem. There's Nerf wars and video games and wrestling matches and all other sorts of things going on, shenanigans going on over there.
Yeah, there's nothing quite like being in the middle of a game and hearing a bunch of noise from the other side of the basement, looking over and finding all of our sons shirtless and dancing in front of the screen.
Yeah, a little weird.
It was a little weird, but they were having a great time.
Yes, they were.
So, now, we come because we love the company, and we come because we love the board games, but it does not hurt. You keep offering burgers and smoked meats, which has been fantastic as well.
Honestly, good food always goes well with games, in my opinion.
Agreed.
And everybody brings snacks, so it all just works out.
So those are some of our gaming highlights. Spent a lot of time talking about BGG Con. Had an absolutely wonderful time there, and spent most of our time talking about that.
We did talk about several games that are new and out there. Twilight Inscription, Wormholes, games coming out on Kickstarter, Overbattle, Rise of Kings, Neo Grimorium, a lot of tidbits in there. We're not just here to talk. We also wanted to make sure we were including some of those new game highlights as well.
Until next time.
We'll see you at the game table. Unless you're going to Andy's house, make sure you bring padding and a side.
Padding and a side. As always, we want to thank you for listening.
Check out our website. We have all sorts of cool things there. Love those blogs. Get a deeper look into the writing side of Meeple Nation.
Join our Facebook group, Meeple Nation Off Air. I look forward to seeing you there.
Follow us on Twitter at Meeple Nation. We also have Instagram
under the same name. We also want to thank our sponsor, GameToppersLLC.com.
We love their product, and they have so much goodness out there.
And we also want to thank Braiding Detergent for our music.
It shows how much that forget that. It was good times. Games are fun.
No, you really, really enjoy hard
I
art.
really enjoy hard art. I really enjoy Hard 8. Was done phenomenally well. I say phenomenally a lot.
You do.
I didn't say it there. That was phenomenally. Whatever that was.
You are a phenomenally guy.
I am. They pulled that off
So well.
so really well.
Really well.
They pulled that off perfectly, I feel.
I am very
Happy, though.
excited. What?
Happily.
Be happy, though.
I am so excited to try this game out, you guys.
Reel back. Have you had a chance to play that one yet?
I've still not.
Do we play games with you?
Once in a while, you guys let me get a game in.
Why are you on this podcast?